Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 440. It's been a while. It has been a while. Good evening, Dane Khan. Of course, Kevin G. Yeah, Life with Cerebral. What's up? I am your co-host, Nathan Springer, joined by the beautiful host. What's your name? Tell the people your name. You are the host. What's your name, host? Your name is? Lily. Lily. Joined by the beautiful host, Lily, of course. What's up? It's a beautiful Monday evening. We're out here very late on a Monday. I know. Yes, we're supposed to be back to that 9 o'clock time, but time is time. Time is time. Yeah, Willie Bang, the chunkalunks. Hey, watch your hand in your mouth. No hand showing. But we are here after one of the most consequential elections in modern history. You know, the thing is, people always say this is going to be the biggest election, this is going to be the most important election, and sometimes people make fun because of that. But I think to some extent that is correct. Possibly each progressing election is more important than the one gone. The next election is obviously the most important one. Yeah, by ghost. I do think so. The next election, at least for the people living, the next election is basically... Yes, baby. Yep. Yes, LL. What's L for? L for? Lamp. Okay. Returning from whence you came. All right. Yeah. Identity politics lost, Dean Khan said. Listen, I would have, if Miss Kamala, you know, they play a kind of mind game on you, eh? I want to call Kamala Tanti Kamala, but the kind of effect they give is like you get the impression that this is a young person, but Tanti Kamala is 60, that's a Tanti. For all intents and purposes, that's a Tanti. If Tanti Kamala had win with that kind of campaign they did there, I think they would have changed Western politics permanently. For someone to so blatantly play the political game and utilize their media advantage where they literally refuse to answer any question. Tanti did not answer any questions. Any question you ask Tanti, I grew up in a middle class home. And I'm looking for the opportunity economy. That was amazing, Ronnie, and now rich girl, you missed the host. That was and so many people going around now saying it's racism, it's sexism. Maybe I might believe you on the sexism, but it's certainly not racism. I don't buy that. I really don't. And I know there were conversations about how black she was really and all of that. That's not even the angle I'm going at. Beside what her real genetics may or may not be, Mrs. Kamala isn't the very pinnacle of black. When you're thinking about a black negroid female specimen, Kamala is not the picture that comes to mind. So, I'm sorry, but I don't buy the whole racism aspect. Obama looked more of a negroid than Kamala did. I don't know about the echo. Obama looked weird. Come on now, man. I noticed something. People who are not familiar with ethnic dynamics, the internal workings. I always remember something I like the analyzing of the racial dynamics and cultural anthropology, if you will. And I always note how Afro people with more African ancestry, a higher percentage, they're able to to tell the nuanced difference in hair textures. They know if that person mixed with a little Spanish in it. That person looked like their great grandfather was a Douglas. You could see it in the hair. You could see it in the hair. Their hair. You could tell that difference. But many people who are outside of the culture have no real understanding of the differences. They see a Douglas fella, they see a full Afro fella, and they say, hey, look a Negro. All are the same to them. But to those of us inside, you could tell the differences. We know who more, like, I don't know how YouTube would take this word, but in Trinidad, pardon my language, we know what more niggery means. And like, come on, we don't mama guy each other here. And if we were to ascribe a greater level of N-ness, let's put that N, a capital N to represent that. Who had more, Obama or Kamala? Like, let's be honest. Obama was half white. We just start real late. You saw African American who behaving on Twitter, bro. Yup. Well, they behaving so all over, to be honest. Willie Bang, all over. But yup, I saw. I mean, like, if you want to claim racism, how they vote Obama? Obama have a whole black wife. Like, I think that gave Obama more black credentials. Like, okay, you might call Obama half black and a little, a little mulatto something there, but you can't deny Mish. Tanti Michelle is a sister. Without a doubt. So, I don't understand how you could really claim racism. I maybe not racism. Sexism, maybe. And to be honest, I'm not totally surprised. The 4B movement, wasn't that started out in Korea? Well, her mom was Indian and her dad looked Douglas. So, well, if from what I understand, there are people questioning whether her father was or wasn't. But the man looked like he had something out of the African continent in him. He looked like he had some dash out of the continent. But he was mixed with white and maybe some other ethnicities too. So she is at most, what, quarter black? Most susceptible to system programming, shaking my head. Bro, I find that unfortunate. I find it unfortunate. And, you know, one of the conversations I really find interesting is when I see Trini Afros talk about racial politics and ethnic politics and how in Trinidad these Indians vote for UNC at a 70% rate, you know. And then I ask them, what do you favor in US politics? And they go with the party that black women vote for at a 92% rate. Like, jeez. Is there any other demographic as loyal to any political group? Like, at least the black men, the last election, the black men seemed to start to distance themselves a bit. I believe it was 20% overall. And if you broke that down to see, like, the age differences, I saw it then, the older black men stuck with their Democrats. But those younger black men, 1 in 3 and upwards, like that, upwards of 30%, voted for Trump. But the fellas going that way, but the ladies not. The thing is, not even all ladies, because they touted this last US election as a real woman versus the men thing. But the white woman said, count us out. I think Trump still got more than 50% of the white ladies' vote. The thing is, though, a lot of the voting, even of women, is dependent on their marital status. That's just reality. A lot of the voting of women are dependent on their marital status. So married women generally vote differently than single women. So maybe within the ethnicities, there is a variance in how many women are married within the ethnicities. The ladies tend to... Vishal, are you sure you want me to read this out here? According to one of the commenters over on TikTok, yeah, this isn't necessarily Nathan Springer. Vishal Prasad says, the ladies tend to be a little naive, and plus they're programmed through the education system. Well, I'm not saying you're wrong, but those ladies don't like hearing those words of late. If single ladies alone voted in the US election, I think the Republicans wouldn't win a single state. And and if men alone voted, I think the Democrats wouldn't win a single state. But if married women alone voted, I still think the Democrats wouldn't win a single state. It seems like the Democrat Party is the party of single women and men of the community. If you understand what I mean, the community. Not my specific community, but a community. It seems like that's who the Democrat Party has specialized in appealing to. And in that case, it's the party of the youth. But not anymore, Ronnie. That's not really the case, because Gen Z men are going over to the Republicans. And if you look at the chart, there are charts all over now that are showing the male and female divide in politics all over the developed world. And you're seeing a greater distancing. Women are way more leftward than men are. And you know something interesting? I was looking at some commentary on that whole thing. Hey, battery on the computer. Why didn't I plug you in? Yeah. And, you know, there's a conversation. There's a conversation being had about the radicalization of the young men being radicalized by all these podcasters, these guys online, these fellas online only radicalizing these young men out there. But then you look at the graph, and what you realize is that women are actually heading more leftward than men are heading rightward. It's not really that the men went off the rightward cliff. It's that women went off the leftward cliff. Let me see if I can pull up this graph. Let me see if I can get this graph over here. Well, for those on YouTube might be able to see it if I get it, if I find it. Where is this graph? Alright, this is another representation here, but this should work just as fine. It's a report, Polarization, Democracy and Political Violence in the United States, what the research says. I'm trying to get a nice visualization of a graph here that shows the pull leftward and rightward. This should work enough. So I'll pull this up over on YouTube there. And if you look at it, you see a pink line and you see a blue line there. And the pink line and the blue line, or the red line and the blue line, oh no, these are, right, the red line and the blue line showing more right, still not the graph I'm looking for. Jeez, man. This is the graph I'm looking for. So, in nearly every country that they have in this graph, well, I mean, they only have 4 countries, South Korea, US, Germany, and UK. The polarization of the genders as it comes to politics, the men are heading way more to the right, while the women are heading way more to the left, consistently in all of those countries. But then when you look at the graph, besides South Korea, where I don't know what's going on with South Korea and the guys out there, the South Korean guys fell off of... Thank you. The South Korean guys fell off of a cliff when it comes to right wing. But if you look at the US in politics, the men, Germany has the same thing, UK has the same thing. The men are actually slightly deviating rightward, while the women have taken a plunge off of the leftward cliff. And to me, the radicalization isn't in the young men. If there is some radicalization in the young men, I think the radicalization is responsive. All of these red pill podcasters and stuff that came out were in response to the changing culture already. If you take a survey of the average young woman and compare her to the average young woman in 1980, now and then you take a survey of the average young man and compare him to the average young man in 1980, who do you think would seem the most strange compared to their 40-year-old and previous incarnation? I think it's the woman. I think it's the woman. Many of these young ladies, and here's the reason. Someone said they are more naive. I don't know if I'd use the word naive. But women are the more social gender. They are the more social sex. They are more dependent on social cues. So if the society is cued in one particular direction, women tend to hold it more. The truth is, when much of the Western world was more extreme, if you will, on the conservative, Christian, reserved side, women were actually at the forefront of that. The movement, what was the movement called? I forgot the name of the movement. Is it a P? Where they wanted to ban alcohol in the United States during that, the Great Depression, with bootlegging and all of that. The words are just slipping me. But it was women at the head of that movement. Women were the most conservative ones pushing in that conservative direction. Prohibition, yeah, but it was the word that's ringing in my mind is perseverance, but it's not perseverance. A specific P word that, means like they're more sober-minded was a movement. Not the suffragettes I'm talking about. But yeah, nonetheless, women were at the head of that because they are the social movers. What society deems to be the correct direction, women generally enforce that. So now that society deems progress to be on this leftward side, this is what we must do to be a good people. This is what we must do to progress into the right direction. Is it any surprise that this is the side where all the celebrities are? Where all of pop culture is, where if you watch most of the most popular TV shows, it's going to seem like everyone in the world leans leftward or democratic in the United States. So the more sociable of the sexes pulls into that side, and they become the enforcers of that side, pushing it further and further in that direction. But the thing is, you need men too. And they found that out. It should seem obvious to me, to most people it should seem obvious. If you are aiming at a kind of ideology that has women at the top, and we are looking out for women out here, okay, you'll get some gay men. You'll get some men who aren't very overtly, aggressively masculine. You'll get some women who who want to be in the primacy positions, but how many of those people are there out there? How many men who have no interest in leading, women who want to lead? How many of those two groups are you going to get? And I think this election showed a lot of that, because the guy won the popular vote. And as just an observer, I think that was good for the United States. I think that worked good for the United States. This was the best outcome as an observer for stability in the United States, I believe. I honestly believe that. If he won the electoral college, which is how their president is actually chosen, if he won that but not the popular votes, as in not the most votes numerically, then it would have been bacchanal all over again. It would have been easy to say that people don't want him and he's actually unpopular. But now, like, what are you going to say? The majority of people voted for the man. So when he says he's going to deport how much ever people, how can you complain about that when that's what the people wanted? It's a strange thing watching some people who like to talk about the democracy, and they're trying to save their democracy and they're fighting for their democracy, and then they're angry with the democratic choices that are made. That is what democracy is. Democracy means that you don't get what you want necessarily. If you don't win, you don't get what you want. What you want isn't democracy. You know, that's not the default. If my intention isn't shown on the political sphere, then this is undemocratic. No, not true. That's not how it works. You know, there could be democratic slavery too. Like, as I regularly say, democracy isn't a default good word. There could be democratic slavery. There's no cry for them. Yeah, there isn't. There's just the supporters crying. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. But I understand why that could be. You see, for the other side, the right-wing side, it's kind of understood that they are outside of the popular culture. So they would always feel like the underdogs. They're always fighting against it. But if you see Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Bryan Adams, all of these celebrities, all the most famous ones out there, and they all seem to be going in this direction. Well, obviously, what else could happen? So when the result doesn't go according to what you thought it would have, how you thought it would have gone, I could understand fully why people would be splitting mad, and also why they would be confused, because they don't know. If you look at the statistics of it, they say the left wing in the United States gets all their news from left wing sources, while the right wing gets their news from a wider range of sources. So even if the right were to lose, they would have an idea why they lose, what the other side is saying. But when you are inside your little bubble, all you know is that this bubble is the best thing ever. So when it pops and you figure out, wait, there are many more people outside of my bubble than there are inside, that won't be a good feeling. But we're talking about the United States, but we have problems galore right over here. IMF worries surround us. Forex worries surround us. How would we make money? How would we get money for trade? IMF wants government to end Forex restrictions. The International Monetary Fund said on Friday that TNT's foreign exchange restrictions are not consistent with the fund's articles of agreement, and the Washington, D.C.-based lender of last resort is seeking to persuade this country to end the restrictions. In his comment, the spokesperson noted that under its rules, no member of the fund shall, without the approval of the fund, impose restrictions on the making of payments and transfers for current international transactions, i.e., exchange restrictions. The IMF noted TNT's exchange restrictions are identified and assessed in Article 4 consultation staff reports. We maintain an exchange restriction that was not approved by the fund according to informational annex of the report. So they want us to, free up our foreign exchange. Yes, I saw that, Dean Khan. They paid a lot of people. I think they paid like $500,000 for staff. Spent a lot of money. The question is, what can we supply to the world? And that should be an end to the problem of the Forex. Well, yes, that is the main problem with Forex. How do we bring in more Forex so that we can get more? But the problem is, Trinidad was structured in such a way that the oil and gas saw about all of those problems. Our energy industry brought in enough Forex that, we could play the fool. Our government controls the distribution of Forex. It's not a free and open trade of the Forex here. And they don't want to relinquish that control. And I mean, some people may say it's for nefarious intent, but they would say it's because they have care for the less fortunate in both defense Forex restrictions as IMF urges greater flexibility. Despite calls from the IMF for the government to end foreign exchange restrictions, Finance Minister insists that the government has maintained its fixed foreign exchange regime to control inflation. Imbert indicated that the IMF's call for greater exchange rate flexibility is not new, as it was made in 2012. He said in the IMF's 2013 report, the fund reiterated its view. However, he pointed out that the then UNC government told the IMF that they were not contemplating changes to the exchange rate system at that time. Again, in 2014, the IMF said the same thing, and the UNC government basically told them the same thing again, that they do not plan to change that. And you see, the problem is, if you suddenly take the damn are we using the Forex now for buying refined gas? I think it was squandered to a large extent, but we did get a lot out of it also. But a lot of it was indeed squandered. Both things could be true simultaneously. And the problem with what we have right now is a fixed exchange rate. So the Trinidad exchange rate to the US dollars remains the same regardless of what happens on the open market. Now, in order for that to happen, the Trinidad government, through the central bank, has to put their thumb on the scale occasionally. So when we buy more foreign exchange than we sell, they put in some foreign exchange into the system to build up the balance to try to keep that foreign exchange rate stable. That's what they do. Now, the benefit of doing that is that the price changes internationally don't have as whipping of an effect on a small country like Trinidad. And also those who are less fortunate, they don't have to pay the international fluctuating prices, which is what the government says they're doing this for. Now, on the unfortunate side of this, when the government controls the sharing, as it were, of Forex, then those who want Forex lament that they can't get as much as they want, and they worry that the government is allowing specific people to get Forex while not allowing others to do so. And that's a major problem, because nearly every business, every entrepreneur in Trinidad and Tobago requires some kind of trade. Foreign trade. They require import of something or the other. And if the case is that individual entrepreneurs, individual smaller businesses can't get access to foreign exchange, then what you are actually doing is forcing them into the hands of whoever you gave the Forex to that brings in the product, and now we must all buy it locally with local dollars. And then we are at the mercy of the local merchants. We are trapped under the local merchants. And as I regularly say, I think this is the PNM strategy by and large. I think the PNM is the business class status quo. They are the establishment. And this is what benefits the establishment. Those who are already established, they would be the first come, first serve on the foreign exchange gravy train. And if you're trying to run a business out of your credit cards, where you don't need to link and know anybody, you just, you work with the business you have, you bring in enough money, the bank offers you a credit card, you take the maximum amount because you have that amount of money, bam. Now they tell you from 41,000 per month, it drops to 14,000 per month. And I know many people, I know some people who run their businesses off of those credit cards and basically max out the credit cards every month in buying stock for their business. If you were maxing out a $41,000 credit card in buying stock for your business, and now that shrinks to 14%, some 60 plus, 14,000, some 60 plus percent of shrinkage. What's going to happen to your business? How is your business going to survive? What's that going to do to these small and medium-sized enterprises? Anybody who uses their credit card for the purchasing of stock. And every bank is doing it now. Every bank is decreasing that limit. And why are they decreasing the limit? Because they say they don't have enough forex to go around. And the question is then asked, who gets all of the forex? Because it's obvious when you see the amount of vehicles being brought in by those vehicle companies, brand new vehicles, when you see the Porsche yard is always filled with new Porsches, you understand that some people don't seem to struggle to get that. While if you want to run a little small business there, hard luck for you. Concord Road says, I believe the reason for the forex control is to make it appear all is well to stay elected. I would say yes to some extent. That's why the UNC did not want to leave that control of the forex either. They were told by the IMF twice to free it up also, and they chose not. I think multiple reasons that would be. One, it allows you to artificially make it seem like the prices are remaining much lower than they might be on the international scale. And two, it gives you a lot of control of the country's economy. You could kind of call winners and losers to a certain extent. If my financier is my financier, I could make sure my financier remains in a financial position to remain my financier, if you understand what I mean. And with these things, you combine this forex crunch with the crime that we're facing. And I saw an article here, TNT's brain drain. Last week, Guardian Media Limited examined the current state of TNT's job market and the working environment new university graduates would be entering as they begin their careers. While many graduates struggle to find jobs due to saturation and degree inflation, the practice of employers having unnecessarily high entry requirements for jobs, some graduates possess qualifications specifically suited to professions which may have limited vacancies locally. Now, tell me, what are we trying to do as a country when we squeeze forex so small and medium businesses and upcoming entrepreneurs, hard luck, we encourage every single young person to go get their free bachelors, so we oversaturate the education market, and then we have rampant crime. What do those three things encourage? For, let's say someone is a young, educated business person with a family. Tell me, what are you what is the impetus given to those people? You can't get Forex for your business. You can't get a job in your field of qualification. Your family is at risk of being victims of crime constantly. As a responsible person, what is the encouragement there? So, should I stay in Trinidad, downsize my business, risk crime, not further my career? For what? Why would someone do that? What's the encouragement to stay here and give anything back to this country? What's the environment that someone is supposed to do that in? If you had a successful business dependent on credit card purchasing, now your business is facing a decline of 50%. Is it responsible to stay? If you have a family, now you have less money and the crime's still there. Is it responsible to stay? And then can we really be surprised when Trinidad has a brain drain? Brain drain seems like the logical thing even. And here's the thing, like, I understand, being that we are what we are geographically, historically, there are challenges that Trinidad would have to face by default, just because of who Trinidad is. And okay, I might be willing to stay and face some of those kind of challenges. If it was that storms hit Trinidad, all right, that's not Trinidad. But how you mean to tell me that it's crime and bad Forex distribution that's doing this? And I understand floating the foreign exchange is very likely going to hurt the poorest first. But I don't think it's going to hurt them all along. I think eventually the country would balance back itself, which I think it might be something we need. And I don't know if I could believe that the government is better suited to distribution of the Forex. How do we solve it as the most educated generation? We need to find solutions. Unfortunately, some of these solutions are political in nature. And we have yet to have disruptive politics in Trinidad and Tobago, like someone entering who is obviously outside the mold of the two main parties, and they're there to disrupt. I don't think we've had disruptors yet in the main stage. I think the PEP guys would like to think of themselves as so, but I don't think they are disruptors in the true sense. They're UNC Part 2 kind of way. Do we need a Trump? I guess we do. But it's not just Trump, it's the ideology, I guess, to some extent, where but you see, the US is different from most countries in how it was. It's different from most countries in how it was formed. The idea of freedom, the idea of that more libertarian style life where the government is not supposed to control much, where the majority, a lot of the US Constitution was kind of facing back at the government and telling the government, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, instead of many other countries' constitution, which is facing at the population, with the government telling the population that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. So the US has a little difference in that. And because of that, many citizens in the US are of the view that in their politics, what they want is someone who is uninvolved in their life. Let me see about my business. You are uninvolved in my life. You facilitate as best as you can. While in Trinidad, that's not the politics we came up in. We came up in the politicians seeing about our needs. Somebody has to give us breakfasts in school, and the box lunch, and somebody needs to make sure that we have all the cheapest of everything, and the government need too, and the government don't care, and the government. That's our style of politics out here. Our style of politics is much more dependent on the government. So I'm not even sure if a Trumpian character would make it in our style of governance, because when you advertise yourself for Trinidad and Tobago, they're asking you, what are you going to give us? Not how are you going to facilitate us getting better. They're asking, what are you going to give us? I think there's a large group in Trinidad that would want our government to be more of a facilitator, but are they large enough to drown out the gimme crowd? If you have someone disruptive who comes in and says, well, a government is supposed to be a facilitator, so I'm here, I'm going to try to make all of you the best business people ever, make entrepreneurs be able to reach to the top once they're willing to go for it. That's what I promise as a leader. I'm not giving you anything, but we're facilitating it for you to get everything you want. Okay, there would be some people that would love that, but would it be enough? When the other parties say that this party want to cut CPEP, this party want to cut URP, they want to cut your disability and your social assistance and your food card. They just want to cut it and struggle for the poor people. Are we going to get enough people to vote for that party that just facilitates? Or that person who just wants to facilitate? Remember, we had a party in this country talking about giving mothers $400 a month to buy milk. Milk. Not that I have a problem with mothers getting help to buy milk, but that's not the duty of a government. And the reality is, the more the government gets involved in your everyday business, the more they're going to spend out our money. The government makes no money, and they're horrible at managing and controlling money. That's why a government-style politician, a lifelong politician, ran a campaign, got $1 billion+ and was still in 20 million debt. A businessman ran a campaign, got, I think, a third of that, and left with money in the account still. Because that's the difference between business people and politicians. Politicians spend like that because they're spending other people's money. When you're spending other people's money, it's easy to spend like a drug dealer, you know. It's other people's money. PNM, the local Republicans, they largely solely benefit the rich, not the poor. But who says that's true of the Republicans? More billionaires and the wealthier people in the United States support Democrats than Republicans. Much of the poorer people support Republicans in the United States. I think that's a lie. That's a propaganda line fed from the United States down here. Not the PNM part, but the Republicans and the rich part. It may have been true in 1992, but it's not true for at least the last decade. In Trinidad, I won't use the word rich. It's not about rich. It's about status quo. Because the UNC has many very rich supporters. I think the PNM is more status quo than per se rich. So you might see talk about elites, and I take that more. The PNM may be more the party of the elites than necessarily the party of the rich. So that's why regularly I make the point. If you're watching Trinidad politics, I don't think you'd see the PNM by and large function on the plane of racism. but you'd see quite a bit of classism. Quite a bit. And much of the prejudice in the PNM, if you look at it outside of the race lens and use the class lens, it would make more sense to you. But I don't think there's a nice direct comparison between Trinidad and the US, as in putting the PNM for Republicans, UNC for Democrats kind of thing. I don't think it works like that in Trinidad and Tobago. By and large, both of our parties are pretty left-leaning. Both of our parties believe in a large government, a large involved government. So I guess both of the parties may be more down the Democrat line. Both of our parties. So I don't know if we have that comparison directly here. Hey, Kwesi. All right, people. This was a short one. You know, it was just touching my foot in the water, as the old people does say now. You know, you just touch your foot in the water as you come back now. So I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. That is all I have for now. I'm Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Life, and I'm seeking to be here again. Start back the life, you know. Let me get the thing rolling again, man. Blessings, Ghost. Long time, Kwesi, long time. It's been about, what, 3 weeks? Or 2 weeks? I think two. So I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is intended to be tomorrow night around that 9 p.m. time. Until then, people, hold it down. Stay safe. Stay inside, outside. They are sketchy. And as usual, I tell you, people, go out there and make it a babies. I am a pro-natalist believer. Don't worry, the second host is set to make her debut sometime. Alright, people, until the next time, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. Till next time, peace. Peace and love. Hold it down. Stay well. I'm gone.